with that sense of a humanistic concern, is your perspective, would you identify more with nature than with being human?
I did as a younger man, yes. Um, yes, my experience of boarding school rather put me off. I've had a long life. I've been in and out of humanity in many different contexts. Yes, all that sort of aggro's gone out of me now. I look at it with a quiet mind, and I think one's yes, I've gone through most of the phases of human life in my own experience. So who am I to comment adversely about what other people are going through? I'm a great believer in the commandment, don't judge, judge not. I don't like to criticize. Yes, I always sort of shy away when other people start criticizing. I don't like it. It's not helpful. First commandment is, isn't it, judge and judge and be not judged. We always judge from ignorance, don't we? The more our understanding widens, as you don't judge, because you see the lawfulness, you see the perfect justice in every situation. Just like you look at a field of grass, you see how every blade of grass is perfect according to law, isn't it? All the various laws that govern it, govern the way it stands, the way it curls, the way it bends, the color, everything about it is lawful. Every little insect that crawls is governed by law. There's nothing that isn't governed by perfect law. Everything is perfect. Every grain of dust is perfect when you see it right. Every hair in our beards is perfect, isn't it? And so criticism is just ignorance, because we don't see the perfect, we don't see the truth of the situation. I remember for years worrying about what on earth was meant by God's will, but of course it's really just the perfect lawfulness of everything. Yes, that's wonderful. When you see that, then it gives you a great one accepts life, one accepts it really with wonder, because this is the law working out, whether it's coronavirus or anything else. Everything is according to law, as death is. Death is the wages for sin. What is sin? Sin is turning away from God, which is our human condition, absence from the presence of God. So we're absent from the source of life, so we die. ABC, isn't it? I'm dead simple. What's the answer? Turn back to God. Discover eternal life, as we're told to. In old-fashioned language, save your soul. That's the whole point of it all.
That's really interesting, because I was going to ask you if you think humans turning away from nature or seeing themselves as apart from nature is the cause of a lot of harm in the world. But then I guess there's also the issue of it being part of the perfection, part of the holding.
Is the secondary effect. You see, the first thing is that we turn away from spirit. You see, we fall in consciousness. Spirit is, in a way, is the highest level of consciousness, and we fall in consciousness. This is the fall from paradise. We fall to a lower level of consciousness, you see, and this becomes separate, because spirit is one and undivided, isn't it? Which is obvious. The silence is undivided, isn't it? Stillness is undivided. When we start talking, we get into division. So man has separated himself not only from the one spirit, but from each other. And so all argument and conflict arises, and also separated from nature. And so man brings this disease of absence and infects nature. So nature dies also. The whole world is corrupted. As God says in Genesis, cursed is the ground for your sake. Why do the poor animals die? My fault, isn't it? Because I've left God. This is the first error of man. Well, how and when it happened, God knows. But I've only got the Genesis story like everybody else, but we can see in our own lives, can't we? See how a baby, first of all, reaches out its little hand and says, "Mine, I want." And the parent, and then, I want, I don't want. And so the whole Pandora's box of duality sort of, and this is fed by society, isn't it? That believes in it, and believes in separation. And unfortunately, most of the traditional teaching about saving the soul's been phased out now, hasn't it? We don't get it. And the church hardly seems to talk about it either, seems to have forgotten it.
Do you think if more people cultivated this perspective, it would have a material change in the way we're causing harm to the planet?
Well, yes, it would, because it makes you less aggressive from your own separation. There's less of this, what's in it for me. There's less forgetting and more forgiving. The forgiveness is the nature of God, isn't it? The nature of truth. The silence is totally forgiving, isn't it? There's no criticism to it. It's like the invisible arms, isn't it? The arms of love, because it is, of course, love. That's also what it is. You asked if it was peace. Of course it is. It's peace. It's freedom. It's all these things that we seek for, right here, in spirit. Everything we can possibly desire. And of course, there's no appetite, there's no desires there, because it's complete. It's infinite completion. No problems, no question. You lose that, and oh goodness me, we get into all our human problems, questions, and things arise.
Do you think if more people took up the farming lifestyle, moved to the country, would that be something you'd advise as well?
Back to the land. This was one of the great slogans. I loved this as a young man. Yes, I was a great believer in that. It seems to be happening anyway, doesn't it? That people are, well, like this virus has told a lot of people that it's rather nice to be at home, and especially if you live in the country without having to go to work every day. A lot of people are trying to grow food. It's not so easy, is it? Much easier to go and buy it in the supermarket. Well, the first thing, James, is the spirit, is to save your soul. That's what comes first. And it's very easy to substitute some sort of human. It's much easier to alter some detail of your diet, or do yoga, or or even do some particular spiritual practices. All of these things, instead of really getting to the point of it all, which is to stop talking very often and just come back to this here and now presence. And then all these other details, they're secondary, aren't they?